Hello, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. This one is players to buy for Game Week 24, and it's not just for Game Week 24, it's players to buy for the upcoming game weeks. So we'll have a look at the fixtures for the next few weeks at least anyway. Now the first one is Gakpo. A lot of people brought him into their teams for Game Week 23, myself included. I did get him in. That was a good entry point given it was Ipswich at home, and it was pretty likely he was going to start because he didn't play in the Champions League before that game. However, I don't think it's too late to buy him. I don't think you've missed the boat at all. If you still only have two Liverpool players, let's say you've got Trent and you've got Salah, which is probably quite a lot of people, then you will be looking for a third Liverpool player, and I think Gakpo is the best one to go for now. It does depend on your team though, because some people will have a defender they want to sell, in which case it's probably best to just go to Konate or Virgil van Dijk. Some people will have a midfielder that they want to sell, so maybe you'd go to Diaz, albeit I'm not sure on him, I'm not sure on his minutes going forward. If you are looking to sell a forward, if you still own Jackson for example, if you own an injured Solanke maybe, not quite sure who else there would be, maybe you own Haaland actually and you want to get rid of him and free up some money, I do think Gakpo is still a buy now. It's Everton away and Bournemouth away in the double game week this week, then it's Wolves at home in game week 25. Now he has recently been better in home games than away games. I think he scored in Liverpool's last 5 league games at home now. However, Liverpool are just an absolute force, and these two away fixtures, albeit they're not the best, the Everton defence has kind of shored itself up recently. Slight new manager bounce with Moyes in now, and it's a derby of course, so I don't think that this fixture is unbelievable. And again, Bournemouth are one of the form teams in the league right now. Just put 5 past Nottingham Forest, whose defence is pretty good. However, I don't think the Bournemouth defence is all that good, so I don't mind that fixture. They are both away as I mentioned. Then it's Wolves at home in game week 25. Now, if you watch my team selection video from last week, I broke down the Liverpool fixtures because Liverpool have a lot of games that span the next 2 game weeks in FPL. So firstly, they've got a Champions League game on Wednesday against PSV, I believe, Gakpo's old team. Then they have Everton away, the first game in game week 24. Then they play an FA Cup game. I think it might be against, it's either Accrington Stanley or Plymouth, one of the two. Anyway, you'd expect Gakpo to get a rest in that game. Then they've got the Carabao Cup semi-final against the second leg of it against Tottenham. They're 1-0 down in that, so you would imagine that Slot would want to play his best 11, which probably does involve Gakpo. And then 3 or 4 days later is that Wolves fixture. So yeah, it is, game week 25 does look difficult for him, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if he just started all of those important games. Wouldn't surprise me if he's benched in the Champions League against PSV, that he's benched in the FA Cup and just plays the rest. He is probably the forward to go for outside of Salah anyway for Liverpool. He has now, as you can see up there, he's got 8 goals and 3 assists now in the league. He has overtaken Diaz for goal contributions. Diaz has got 8 goals, 2 assists. So yeah, all of these numbers, by the way, are taken from Fantasy Football Hub. The link to Fantasy Football Hub is in the description of this video if you want to check out all of their stuff. But yeah, he just looks good right now. He's kind of the form man at Liverpool. And like I say, they've got a double game week. They've then got Wolves at home. He probably is one that you're going to want to ship out after that, just because it's Man City away, which we don't know what City we're going to get at the moment. Then it's Newcastle. The only problem after all this is that game week 29 could be a blank game week for them. If they beat Tottenham in the Carabao Cup and go through to the Carabao Cup final, then Liverpool will have a blank game week in game week 29. So after game week 24, we'll know the result on that. But I think it's quite likely that Liverpool do beat Spurs and get to the Carabao Cup final. So just make sure you've got a route out of him. However, it's only game week 24 now, so you've got quite a few weeks to sort that out if you buy him. I think he's a great option. I think you should be looking to buy him for this week. The second player we're going to look at is Ndiaye from Everton. Now, Everton obviously also have a double game week in game week 24. It's not quite as good fixtures wise. It's Leicester at home, which is really, really nice, and then Liverpool at home, which obviously is not ideal, but it is a double game week nevertheless. Now, after the weekend's games, Ndiaye looks like a much better option than he did before. Now, the reason for that is because Dominic Calvert-Lewin looks like he is now injured. He went off quite early in Everton's game against Brighton, so it looks like he's not going to be available for a while at least. The injury didn't look the best, and I think we've had some reports basically saying that he's going to be sidelined for a while. Now, what we also learned in that game is that without Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the pitch, Ndiaye is the penalty taker. Everton did win a penalty against Brighton and he took it, he scored. So we know that in FPL we love penalty takers. He has not the best numbers. I mean, appearances 22, goals 5, assists 0. That's a pretty poor return, but I guess that's expected for an Everton player. I mean, Everton, let's be honest, they're not the best team. And even the underlying numbers, he's had 23 shots in 22 games. That's just over 1 a game. It's not great. 10 shots on target in the whole season. Again, really not great. XG numbers aren't great. XA numbers aren't great. So he's not going to set the world alight, don't get me wrong. However, he is on penalties and he is very cheap. I think he's only 5.4 million, somewhere around that. And his minutes are great. The last time he didn't start a Premier League game was in August, I believe. So you know he's going to start. You know he's going to play a pretty attacking role. I think he's been playing mostly on the left this season. And when he does start, his minutes are pretty good. It's usually 90 minutes or 80 plus. He came off a little bit earlier at the weekend because he looked pretty tired. I don't think there was any injury to worry about, but he did signal to the bench that I think he needed to come off. However, he didn't kind of get treatment for it or anything like that. He was celebrating at the end of the game. He was running right till he came off. So I don't really think there's too much of an issue to worry about there. Obviously, the fixtures is kind of the problem, and the fact he plays for Everton. Obviously, Everton really aren't the best team. They have been a little bit better since Moyes has come in. A bit of a new manager bounce, but it's Leicester at home in the double. I mean, that is good. The rest of the fixtures just aren't good though. I mean, Liverpool at home, their defence has conceded a few chances recently, but one of the better defences in the league. Crystal Palace isn't the worst fixture. Man United at home, it's okay, but this is kind of reflected in his price. He's not someone that you're necessarily going to be want to play in every week, but at his price you can bench him. Just make sure you've got 7 other good attackers so that when he doesn't have a good fixture, you can just bench him. One other good thing about Everton players in general is that they will definitely play in game week 29. So as I mentioned earlier, there'll be a couple of teams that blank in game week 29. Everton are not one of them. And in that week, they play West Ham at home, I believe. So it's a pretty good fixture. And essentially, I know it's quite early and it's quite a few weeks away, but we are going to want to start thinking about kind of lining our team up for game week 29. There is, of course, the option to free hit in that week, and that might be a good play depending on what team's blank, but it is also worth setting yourself up to not free hit, because that free hit chip can also be useful later down the line. So we know that Everton have a good fixture in game week 29 and they've got a double in game week 24, so I think he is definitely one to be looking at. Right, another Everton player to talk about, and it's the goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. Now, these stats on screen are pretty pointless. They're all attacking stats, so they're of no use for a goalkeeper, but it does show the fixtures still. And a lot of people will be looking to get in a double game week goalkeeper. I don't think Alisson is the best use of a third Liverpool slot. I think that you can go a defender like Van Dijk or Konate. You can go for an attacker like Gakpo. I just think that Alisson probably isn't the best use of that slot. So I think a lot of people will be looking at Jordan Pickford, especially as for goalkeepers, fixtures matter slightly less. I mean, yes, they still get the bulk of their points from clean sheets, and we're still looking for clean sheets. And that Leicester at home fixture is obviously prime for a clean sheet. However, even in bad fixtures, goalkeepers can still get plenty of points. We know that for every 3 saves, a goalkeeper gets a point. Now, in that Liverpool game, it is quite likely that Jordan Pickford will be absolutely peppered with shots. That means that he will be making quite a lot of saves. Don't get me wrong, he'll probably be conceding goals. And I suppose you're almost hoping he does, probably because you're likely going to have Salah and you're likely going to captain him. You may have Gakpo or Diaz or one of the attacking players from Liverpool. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if he concedes in that game. If you get a clean sheet against Leicester and then just a few save points against Liverpool, you're looking at a pretty big score for Jordan Pickford. And again, we did just mention it with Ndiaye. Jordan Pickford will play in Game Week 29 and he will have a good fixture in Game Week 29, West Ham at home. So if you get Jordan Pickford in this week, you then don't need to think about using a transfer on your goalkeeper for that blank game week. We have also seen that the Everton defence has kind of shored itself up recently. They kept a clean sheet at the weekend against Brighton. They quite recently kept clean sheets against Arsenal and Chelsea, 2 of the best attacks in the league. So we know that with players back, they're capable of defending well. Branthwaite is back. That was quite a big one. He's been back for a while. And their defence just doesn't look as ropey anymore, I think. So he is definitely a good option. David Moyes has now come in, and we know from his time at West Ham and other teams that he can set up pretty defensively solid. So this does bode well for Everton's defensive options and Everton's goalkeeper. So I think if you are going to make a goalkeeper transfer this week, then Jordan Pickford is the one to buy. Right, that's it for double game week players now for this video. Now we're going to look at a couple of other players who have really nice fixtures in the next few. So Bryan Mbeumo, a lot of people will already have him in their team. A lot of people will have also sold him recently. Now, the last 3 or 4 weeks, Brentford fixtures have been pretty rough. Now, Mbeumo's still been scoring points because Brentford are just good going forward, as is he. So it's not kind of... A lot of people will already own him. So if you do, brilliant, you keep him. He's brilliant. However, a lot of people will have sold him, as I mentioned. Now the fixtures get really good. So Tottenham at home in Game Week 24. We've seen recently that Tottenham are just quite terrible, to be honest. There's not much more to say than that. They are just really bad. Their defence is awful. They have a lot of injuries in defence. Their goalkeeper's out, Vicario, he is out. Their left back is out, Udogie. Their 2 centre-backs are out, albeit they are coming back soon. However, this week probably is a bit too soon for them. They will probably want those players back for that Carabao Cup semi-final against Liverpool. So I highly doubt either of them are rushed back for this Brentford game. So yeah, 4 defensive players out. It's only Pedro Porro who is the first choice and is fit in that defence. They've got a couple of defensive midfielders out as well. Their team is just, injury-wise, it's an absolute mess. So this is definitely a very, very good fixture. The week after that, West Ham away, great fixture. Game week 26, Leicester away, great fixture. And it's important to note, in game week 26, Salah has a pretty tough fixture. Can't remember exactly who it is, but Salah and Liverpool have a pretty tough fixture. Chelsea and Parma play Aston Villa away, I think it is. So again, not the best fixture. So you may want to look elsewhere for captaincy. And Bryan Mbeumo plays Leicester away, so he could be a very nice differential captain option in game week 26. That's just worth noting. But anyway, onto his numbers. They're quite ridiculous. So 14 goals, 3 assists in 23 games. Very, very good return. 17 returns in 23 games is lovely. Shots 46, shots on target 27. That's 2 shots per game. And that is over a shot on target every game. XG of 7.87, XA of 5.11. He has overperformed that XG, obviously quite considerably. He's also overperformed the XA, as you can see. 7.87 XG to 14 goals and 5.11 XA to 3 assists. So actually, he's underperformed the XA, but he's overperformed the XG quite considerably, almost double in fact, which of course isn't sustainable, but that isn't necessarily a problem. We've seen Chris Wood do the same thing. He has been overperforming his XG all season, and he continues to get returns. So it's not the worst thing. All the other numbers are just very good. So he's a brilliant option. We know he's on penalties, as he scored a penalty at the weekend, albeit it was quite controversial because he actually missed the first one. He hit the post and then had to retake, and he scored the second one. But there's nothing not to like about Mbeumo at the moment. Fixtures are good. You know he's going to get good minutes. Plays for a team who's very attacking and kind of in form as such right now. They've been on form all season pretty much. And he's on penalties, so nothing not to like about him. I think if you can, get him in this week. Okay, and the last player we're going to look at today is another Brentford player, Wissa. We know what he's capable of. He absolutely hoovers up big chances and XG. You can see here, he has 10.27 XG, so he's got more XG than Mbeumo, even though Mbeumo's taken a load of penalties this season. And he isn't overperforming either. He's got 10.27 XG, 10 goals, and 3 assists from 1.18 XA. So his numbers are good. He's in line with his numbers. There's even potential that he could start overperforming as well, which would be nice. Appearances 20, shots 47, so over 2 shots a game. Shots on target 25, which is over 1 shot on target every game as well. Big chances is one that's worth looking at. Big chances 20, appearances 20, so he's averaging a big chance every game. Most strikers will, it's probably a 50% rate that they score big chances, so this is a quite important metric to look at. And also, we mentioned before, the fixtures are just really, really good coming up. Tottenham at home, we mentioned, is just a really good fixture right now. Their defence is a mess. West Ham away, great fixture. Leicester away, great fixture. Albeit we did see earlier in the season that Brentford were much better at home than they were away from home. The difference was huge. Now that's kind of changed a little bit. It's not as drastic. So the fact that 2 of these fixtures are away, West Ham and Leicester, isn't as much of an issue as it maybe was at the start of the season. However, to be honest, at the start of the season, they just had really nice fixtures at home and not so nice fixtures away. So I think that played most of the part of it. But yeah, I don't even mind the double up with the Brentford boys, to be honest. A lot of people will have a forward to sell, as I mentioned earlier. People will still be holding on to Jackson. People might even have Calvert-Lewin that they got in ready for the double game week, who's now injured. So if you can, I do quite like the double up of Mbeumo and Wissa. Now, that's all for this one. If you've got any questions about your teams or anything I've mentioned today, drop them in the comments. If you like the video, do hit like, do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.